You know, after something truly unthinkable happens, we all look for justice. But what happens when the usual path to justice is gone? Today, we're looking at a case out of Shreveport, Louisiana, where a terrible, terrible crime has prosecutors taking a very different approach. They're trying to find accountability not just with the person who pulled the trigger, but also with the person who might have put the gun in their hands to begin with.
This quote from U.S. Attorney Zachary Keller, man, it really gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. The person who committed the crime is gone, so the legal system is searching for another way, anyway, to give some answers and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of peace to a community that's been so deeply hurt. Okay, so let's start with the person at the center of this new legal strategy. The federal government is building its case around the man they say supplied the weapon that was used in this horrific attack.
That man is 56-year-old Charles Ford. On April 21st, he was charged by federal prosecutors. Suddenly, he became the focus of a whole different kind of investigation that spun out of the original tragedy.
Now, to be really clear, Ford isn't charged with the shooting itself. He's facing two very specific federal crimes. First, he's a convicted felon, which means he was legally banned from ever having a gun in the first place. And second, he's accused of lying to federal agents while they were investigating.
And make no mistake, these are not minor charges. We're talking serious time here. Just a firearm possession charge could mean up to 15 years in federal prison. And lying to the feds, that could add another 5 years on top of that. So, the big question is, how did investigators connect this specific gun to Ford? Well, let's follow the trail. Tracking the history of a firearm is a really careful, detailed process. And in this case, all signs pointed right to him. The entire case, every bit of it, is built around this one weapon, a .22 caliber Mossberg 715P pistol. The number one job for investigators was to trace this gun's journey, from the moment it was legally bought to the moment it was used in the crime.
And this is where the detective work really comes into play. It's fascinating. Agents started with the original legal owner of the gun. She told them she'd given it to Charles Ford to hold on to for her. So they go to Ford. At first, he completely denies it. He even says, "I can't have a gun. I'm a felon." But then his story allegedly changed. He later admitted the gun was in his truck and that he thought the shooter, Shamar Elkins, must have stolen it from him.
To really get why this prosecution is so incredibly important, we have to take a moment to understand the event that started it all. The human cost of this crime, well, it's at the center of everything we're talking about. 8 children lost their lives. It's a number that's just almost impossible to process. It sent shockwaves not just through the city, but across the entire country. And their ages, they were between just 3 and 11 years old. It just highlights the absolute innocence that was stolen that day. 3 boys, 5 girls, all with their whole lives still ahead of them. It is so important that we remember their names. Jayla, Shayla, Brilan, Kayla, Kitarian, Laya, Maradon, and Sara. Every single name represents a future that was taken, and it's for them and their families that this search for justice, in whatever form it takes, continues. The man responsible for the shooting, Shamar Elkins, was killed by police during a chase not long after it happened. And his death, well, it meant there would never be a trial for the murders. And that right there is exactly why the legal focus had to shift. So this brings us to the core legal idea that this whole federal case against Charles Ford is built on. It's a strategy known as pursuing the chain of custody. So what on earth does that mean? Well, think of it like this. It's the idea that when a crime happens, you don't just look at the very last link in the chain, the person who actually used the weapon. You investigate every single link before that. Who bought it? Who transferred it? Who held onto it illegally? The goal is to hold every person in that chain accountable for the part they played. And you know, this isn't just some theory from a law book. As Corporal Chris Bordelone from the Shreveport Police explains, using federal law opens up all the tools for investigators. It lets them cast a much wider net and go after anyone who helped put that gun into the shooter's hands. And here we are, right back at the U.S. Attorney's main motivation. He says it plainly, since Elkins can't face justice, the next best thing is to try and hold the person whose gun was used accountable. It's a search for some kind of justice in the only way that's left. So finally, let's just pull the lens back one last time and look at the community itself. Because this isn't just a legal case playing out in a courtroom. It's a city trying to figure out how to heal from something that just doesn't make any sense. You can just feel the raw shock in the words of Shreveport's police chief, Wayne Smith. That sense of disbelief, of heartbreak. I mean, that's what everyone in the entire city was feeling.
And in the days that followed, the community did what communities do when they're grieving. A memorial just appeared. Flowers, balloons, stuffed animals, all piled up in a public display of shared sorrow. It was a quiet, powerful tribute to those 8 young lives.
So in the end, this whole case leaves us with a really big, difficult question. When you're faced with such an awful loss, and the killer is beyond the reach of the law, where do you find justice? The prosecution of Charles Ford is one attempt to answer that. It's really a test of whether holding someone accountable for the gun can bring